Hello there. Before you panic about the length of this video, I just want to let you know, calm down. I'm going to walk you through step by step every single part of the process. Most tutorials that cover this on YouTube don't cover everything fully. They split things up into parts. They explain like you're supposed to know things. This tutorial is going to be for as if you're new to Blender for the most bit, trying to get into GTA 5 modding. The other thing I want to mention about this, this is going to piss a lot of people off, this video. Not you learning it, but people that do commissions. Why? Because this is going to save you if you want to actually go through with this and take the time to learn it. A lot of money. People charge money, $60, $70, pounds, whatever, on doing converts when you don't need to spend that money if you know these steps. So people aren't going to like this video, so I'm making it anyways. This is going to teach you how to just save yourself money and make this yourself. So first off, what do you need? Well, to start off with, we're going to need a legal copy of GTA 5, right? And then you're also going to need Gmod, which is about $5 USD off of Steam. That's no problem, right? Assuming you already have those two things, let's actually delve into more specific things here, right? So, Blender, we're going to need Blender. That's going to be the software we're going to be using for all these conversions. That's the big house engine for animation. You've probably heard of it, obviously. Sollumz is a plugin that you're going to need. That is for Blender, so that way you can convert and read GTA 5's levels of models, shading, what have you. That's going to allow you to export and import things in formats that both Blender and GTA 5 can understand. You're also going to need CodeWalker itself. That'll let you actually export files from GTA for use in Blender. And this one's not really required. But you might need a program called gmpublisher on this website here. All these will be linked down below. You might not need this. This is for older Gmod files, things that have been on the workshop for probably 5+ years. And I'll explain when you'll be using this. You might not need it, but just to have it, it's nice to install it. You click on this link down here, and you'll have it installed for that. Also, what you might need is Photoshop, and I heavily recommend Photoshop. I know it's not free. There are ways to get it on Windows. I'm not going to talk about the legality or the process for getting them, obviously, but there are ways to get it for free, if you know. That's all I'm going to say. You will need a plugin for that allows you to export for DDS, but luckily I've got you covered in the description below. I don't like linking other tutorials, but it's not required, but if you check it out, there's a video that shows you how to install it. Real quick, 6-minute video. Process is super simple. You're going to need something called Source.io. This will let you import the actual model from the Steam Workshop. You're going to go down here, latest releases, and click Source.io. So let's get started with installation. So with Open4, when you click download now, you eventually have a folder, and when you open it, you might have the icon at the bottom here look like this. You're going to click it, and it's going to ask you to find your GTA 5 directory. That's usually going to be in your program files. You'll find it yourself. And when you do that, you'll find a folder just like this. But you probably have Open4. You would copy the update x64 into your Maker Mods folder into that, and you'd be sorted. But you likely already have that, right? Let's install Blender. So Blender is pretty straightforward. You're going to click download. It'll make an exe. You'll run the exe. And basically you can allow it to launch. And then when you open Blender itself, you'll see this page here. And you'll be greeted with this little opening section. Before we do anything, a habit you should do when you open it is just to hold down your left mouse button to drag over Blender and press delete. Just delete all the default stuff. We'll be coming back to this and we'll be living in this space for a long time later. Next up, we'll need Sollumz. Sollumz is the same thing. You're going to click on this button here, and the release is in the description. If you're at the top, this panel here, and you're going to scroll down and find yourself a Sollumz.zip. Now, do not, for instance, I'll just download this to show you. You do not want to open the zip. You see how it's downloaded here, right? You don't want to actually open the zip. You want to keep it zipped up. So when you're in Blender, come to Blender, we're going to go up to Edit, Preferences, and then we're going to go to Add-ons. And then we're going to come up to this little button here, so it'll drop down and click Install from Disk. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Downloads folder, wherever you installed it, and you're going to click once on this and click Install from Disk. Now, I already have this installed, so I'm going to get rid of that. Alright? That will install Blender for you, Sollumz for Blender for you, excuse me. You have to restart Blender whenever you do this, so just to simulate that, I'll close out, don't save, reopen Blender. There's our opening page. As we have a habit, delete. And now there's a little error over here. If you see my cursor is, you're going to press X. You're going to press your left mouse button. It's going to open up this panel, and now you have what we're going to be using later on in the video. We'll get to that in just a second. Next up is CodeWalker here. I have a link for this down below. You're going to click download, and it'll bring you to this page here. It will download the file for you, and then in the zip file, you unzip it whatever you want, and then you have all these files. We're going to be focusing on this one right here, the RPF Explorer. That's the main point. I also highly recommend, if you plan to do this a lot, to use a lot of models, to install this on an important place like your taskbar or what have you. And lastly, we're going to install this program called gmpublisher. This is not really required, but you might come into it later on. You can click down here, come down here and click the link at the very top, and that will install gmpublisher. Now, what does this do exactly? Well, allow me to explain. So when you're going to export models from Gmod, and I'll show you how to get to that if you have it, you're going to go to your home library, go to Gmod, click the three dots here, Workshop, we'll scroll down, and you can find anything here that you want to install as a model. If you already have something that you want, let's say that you find a model that you want, it'll be in this folder here, subscribed items, and then you can find whatever model that you want here. Now, where does gmpublisher come into play? Well, let's say you have like an older model, for instance, a Black Ops 2 model is one of the older models, it's a perfect example. You're going to click on the mod page, and you're going to be subscribed to it, likely, and you'll see at the very top up here, there's like a link that has the file ID for Steam. Now, what you can do, one way to get your models, is you're going to left-click on it, and go to gmpublisher when you have it open, and you'll see a screen like this. Now, don't panic if you have more things here or not. Same for here. You don't have to worry about any of this. Simply take that link you just copied from Steam, come up to the search, Control-V, and then it's going to bring up the link for you. Left mouse button, click it, and you'll see this screen here. You're going to want to click the extract button, and then you're going to browse, and it's going to bring you up to a folder like this. What you're going to look for is these numbers right here, 2914482. You can type those numbers up here in the top right. I like to just scroll down manually just to make sure I get everything proper, and I have to keep backing things out. So 291448. I've found the file here. You can click on the folder, and we're just going to click select folder. Exit out of the folder, and you're going to come back here and click extract. It's going to say done, and as you'll see, our 291448 folder, we have the models, Human Grunt, BO2, and we have all the models we'll be working with later. Again, this works with any file. However, there is an easier way to do this, but it only works with certain kinds of files. So what files am I talking about? Well, first off, what we need to do is go into the root game files. So we're going to go to this settings icon here, manage, and then go to browse local files. Now, what is this going to do? It's going to put you inside of a Gmod folder. This is not the folder you actually want to go to. What you actually want to go to here is Steam, Steam Apps, Workshop, Content, and you're going to see a 4000 folder. This is an important folder you're going to need. You can right-click and add this to your taskbar if you want, whatever you want to do, but I really highly recommend adding this to either Quick Access or Start, so that way in the future it'll be right here for your viewing. So we'll go to the 4000 folder. There's a bunch of these numbers, and if you're paying attention from before, these are the different workshops I have subscribed to, and we'll get to that in just a second. Alright, so one of my mates wanted me to do a work for his FiveM server, and he wanted the USMC Reddit from 2019. Now, this isn't exactly going to be a good example of a model, but it's good for me to show you this in case you run into this problem. So, we're going to be working with this file for this tutorial. Now, as you'll see in the top right, we have a 303.811.5934. We're going to look for that same thing in our folder, in our 4000 folder here. And again, make sure you have that pinned to a quick access menu for future access. So here we go, this is our file, 303.811.5934, that matches up here. I'm going to click on this, and you're going to probably wonder, what is this folder right here? What is this for? I only have this file. Well, don't worry, I'm actually delete that right now, and I'll show you how this works. So these are what the modern mods have, a gmpublisher file, this is what we're going to be working with. So, remember the 4000 folder we just bookmarked? We're going to make a duplicate of that. I'm going to right-click on our file folder down here, go to 4000, and you'll see this is where your files are. So what do we want from here? Well, we don't want to be here, period. What we want to do is go to Steam Apps, go to Common, come down to Gmod, go to Bin, and then we're going to be here. Now, I would also recommend adding this folder. This is going to be imperative for making mods. Right-click and add this folder to either Start or Quick Access. At least whenever you make things, you'll be here briefly. There is a program in here called Gmad. This is going to be important for the gmpublisher. So, the folder I just had before I just deleted, how do I get that? That's pretty simple. All you have to do is take a gmpublisher and drag it into Gmad. This will come up, and then voila, our folder's here, and now we have our models, and now we have our materials, or textures, essentially. Before we get onto this, though, we got to set up something that you'll never need to do again, just one time only. So remember that we installed CodeWalker earlier, right? So we're going to go to our CodeWalker RPF Explorer, and you're going to see something like this. It might ask you to pick a path, just choose the same path you had for GTA 5. Now, what we're going to do here is something that we'll never have to do again. So, what I recommend doing is making a folder that you will not lose anywhere. For instance, I'll just make a new folder on my desktop here. I'll just call it Important. Now, obviously, I'm going to delete this just for so I already have one. Go into the Important folder that you make. And again, save this somewhere where you do not want to delete it, so this will save you a lot of time. You're going to come up to the search bar on the top right, and you're going to type in mp_. And it depends. If you're working with a mail, M, if you're working with a female, it depends on what head you want to convert it for. If it's female free mode or male free mode, will depend on the letter here. I'm going with the male, so M, free mode underscore 01.yft. You can click on the search bar here. It's going to take some time, and it's going to come up with, if you have a mods folder, which you should, it should come up with 2 of these. You're going to right-click either one, it does not matter. Right-click, export XML, and then go to that folder that you just made, so important for me, and then select it. And what's going to happen is you're going to have this here. Always have this folder with you. You will need this file going forward. Alright, so I've already made an important folder, but this, don't delete this, I'm just deleting it because I already have one. So here is my version of an important folder, and you'll realize, yeah, I have a YFT here, but what are these files? These are going to be how we scale down our Steam model by having reference clothing, and this will also be what we transfer things over. So how do we get this? Well, first off, what I want you to do is to make a new folder, and I call mine ZProj, like project. The reason why it's a Z is because it makes it at the very bottom of your folders. You just make a folder where you're going to be making the project on your desktop wherever you want, just so that way you can easily access it, because this is going to get filled up very quickly. Once you make a new folder with all your projects, we're going to copy over that YFT skeleton file. We can Control-C, and we can paste it in our project folder. And this is what we're going to be living and spending most of our time in for the rest of the video. Now what we can also do, if we go back to your important folder, or in my case the male skeleton folder, and we're going to start working on how do we get these. So these are what I look for. I always look for the player hands, the head, the feet, the shirt, and the trousers. So to do that, we're going to go into Open 4 here, and we're going to go to x64v, Models, CD Images, StreamPeds MP, MPM Free Modo 1, or MPF Free Modo 1, depending on which one you exported. And then we're going to be looking for certain files. So first off, we're going to be looking for feet. Now, let's say you have an important folder. I recommend putting these in your important folder just so you can copy these in the future. That's what I've done here. But in case you don't, I'll do it with you. So I'll make that fake important folder here. So this is just going to be where your skeleton is. Don't want to modify this folder. We're going to take the feet, right-click, export XML, and then we'll go to important, select folder. Then we're going to look for the next component, which is going to be our head. And the head's important because the default head is what fits all masks in the game by default. So if you're making masks, it's great to scale. Export XML, our important folder. Next we're looking for JBib. This is basically your top. Now what I always recommend doing, I don't install the first one. I usually go for the 12th one. In the past, the reason being it's a long sleeve and all the bones, you'll make sure you can make the sleeves match, the cuffs match and everything, and short sleeves you can just kind of go in between. So I go for JBib 12, export XML, select folder, that's our important folder. Then our lower, right here, lower 00R, export XML important. And finally, last but not least, our upper. Now, what I do is I look for the full long sleeve version, which is upper 15. So I'm going to right-click upper 15, export XML, and select folder. Now this is our important folder. We do not lose this folder. This is not going to be your project folder. Just make this folder as a reference, so that way you can do what I'm about to do in the next step when we make our stuff over. So here's your important folder. Again, I'm going to delete it because I already have one. So your folder is going to look a lot more like this. Just ignore the scale file. This isn't relevant. So now you should have your numbers. Now you're going to rename your feet to JFeet. That way it's easier in position for you. Your JBib to JShirt. Your lower to just capital lower, your head to head, and your hands to hands, or however you want to name them so that way you know how to keep track of them. Essentially, these are the files we've just exported, just renamed, so that way upper is hands, head's head, feet is feet, JBib's J shirt, and then lower, lower. Alright, so this is a folder you don't want to move. However, what we do want to do is we want to copy this into our project folder. Now, if you haven't already, you can also select your skeleton again, just in case you haven't already, the YFT file, Control-C, find your project folder, and just for proof of concept, I'll just delete this right now. And now we can get ready to move. Now what we can do to show you proof of concept is that if you want to import this, you go to General on Sollumz, Import Code Walker XML, and then you're going to find that project folder. So mine's right here, and let's say we want the head, right? As you'll see, the head loads in just fine, but we're not here yet. We don't want to do that just quite yet, and I'll explain shortly. Now that we have our base components, we want to get the model in. This is where the fun can begin. So to get the model into Blender, it's time to go back to that 303 folder that we had earlier. This is going to be, again, in that 4000. This is our Steam Workshop for this model here. We're going to go to our new gmpublisher folder, Models, and then this will be a different path, but you're just going to keep clicking forward until you find what are 3D models, and you can find it by looking for the MDL file underneath the type category. This column here is going to show you what each is. You want the MDL file. Now, they're always different. It doesn't really matter. I always go for whatever doesn't say friendly or hostile. It does not really matter. Those are just for Gmod AI. We're going to take MDL file, we're going to drag it into Blender. This pop-up will come up. Don't worry about anything on here. Just click Import Source MDL file. And then you'll notice we have our model in the game. But what is he missing? He is mixing textures. How do we go for textures? Pretty straightforward process. We'll go back to that same folder. We will not be here anymore, unless you want to import different models from a pack. We're going to go back to our models folder, and then we're going to click more to gmpublisher. Now we're going for a materials folder, which mostly will be called that. Materials. Why? Again, this will vary for you, but you're looking for different materials. And now we can see different textures. So there's a lot here. Do not panic. I'll help you out. What you're looking for are VTF files, not VMT, but VTF. You'll also notice the kilobyte, the size differences. And you're going to notice that, depending on the case, you might have different numbers like this here. I'll explain what these usually mean. But you're most going to be looking for RGB or _C for this, and then _N. But we'll get to that in just a second. As we can see, the model has no textures. How do we put textures on it? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to this right here, material, and you'll notice your model might have one, your model might have dozens of these, but in my case, this only has 4. Now, these little icons here are kind of previews for textures. As you'll see, the body is white, that checks out, but the flag patch, for instance, on his vest, has like a little bit of a purple hue, and then the handcuffs on the back are pink, right, which is with the color, right? So let's fix this. So what we do here, we're going to go to our shading tab at the very top here. We're going to kind of zoom into the model, position the model so how you can see it. Now, you might not have this free cam option I have. Don't worry. You can go into your file or edit your keybinds up here as you wish. From here, you'll see, what do we do here? What's there to do? Well, we're going to click on this, use nodes, and we'll see there's something called a principal BDSF pops up. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to look at this name here. This name will tell you different things, and you'll see this name will change as we click over here. Different names happen up here, right? So, plastic handcuffs _A yellow, right? We want to memorize this name, kind of, just shortly. Come down here, and we'll go into our, in this case, USMC folder, whatever model you're working with, and we're looking for that name. Plastic handcuffs A yellow. Now, we want the RGB, or it might be called _C. That's what you want to drag into Blender itself. And then this will appear, or whatever texture you have will likely appear. What I would always recommend doing is going down here, from channel packed if it has it, to none. That'll cause a lot of problems down the road if that does not get changed when we start doing another process. So what we're going to do, we have our texture here. You can see these are yellow handcuffs, right? These make sense. Take this node here, this color, drag it into here, and, well, from here you can't see, but you'll see on the back the handcuffs have turned yellow. And I'm going to slide this bar right here all the way to the right. All right? Pretty straightforward so far. All right, so what do these little things here mean? N, if I drag it into here, you'll see, is kind of a weird purple. This is essentially a texture map. This is a normal map or a bump map. These essentially are the reason why clothing with like wrinkles in it have some depth to it, like light can make shadows and went off them. We're not going to worry about this just quite yet. We'll get into this in just a second. Again, if you have that Photoshop plugin, it's going to come in handy just in a few, but we'll delete that for now. So, there's our handcuffs. Now, we just have to repeat this. This is a very time-consuming process. We're going to have to repeat this for basically the entire part of the model. So, I might actually make some cuts here, but again, I'll just walk you through these two accessories here. So, flag patch US brown, right? Come to our materials folder. We're looking for flag patch brown. There it is right there. RGB, drag it in, take the color, base color, roughness, boom, set. Next one, accessory patch radar, use nodes. Down here, USMC, looking for accessories patch radar, RGB, drag in there, color, boom, USMC radar patch, equipped. Body MP West, use nodes, come down here. And then I have different textures, so I'll show you for example, let me draw this out a little bit more. You might have to hover over to see the different textures. So, for instance, here's one variation. Here's another variation. And here's a final variation. So I have 3 different variations, and as you'll see here, let me make some room. To move around freely, you can just hold down in your mouse button. So let's say I want a black shirt. I can drag that in, reference to the right, looking good. If I want the grey shirt, I got that texture. And then if I want the tan scheme, I can drag that in just like that. Alright, so what I want you to do now is, you might not even have to wait here, but I'm going to get right to it, but I want you to take the time to click the different parts of your model. Any place that you see a missing texture, so like for instance, this is a tourniquet here, this is an IR strobe, that's part of that flag, which is reused, you might see it sometimes. Find different parts of your model and just retexture whatever you want to convert. I will also say, if you have different textures that look like they're together and they're combined, just come over here and make sure you fill everything out. So like this IR patch, There's our RGB. And even though it's part of the same model, we dragged it into there, roughen this up, and we're good to go. So what I want you to do now is to just click around the model, like for instance the tourniquet here, right? Remember to make sure we use our nodes. And then just kind of texture the rest of the model. Your head might be in a different folder, but just kind of texture the model, and I'll see you in just a short bit. Right, so now that our model is Alright, so now that our model is textured, what we can do is something quite fun and completely up to your creative liberty. So GTA has certain components. For instance, JBib, as was discussed, is the shirt, lower is the trousers, feet are feet, etc. And your model might come with more than just what GTA 5 has to offer, like accessories, tasks. It might come with a bunch of components that you want to get into one material. Or, like for instance, this tourniquet here, let's say we want that to be with this vest. If you want to select two things at once, you click on one item, hold down Shift, click another item, and then if we want to move it, we're going to change off the arrow to these here. This will let you move it, rotate it, etc., scale it, whatever. And we can right-click on our selection, set origin to geometry, and now we can move it around freely. Now, these are separate, but let's say that we want to combine that with our tourniquet, and we'll be working with that in just a second. Or we can do the opposite. Well, let's say there's a part of, let's say we want this marine radar patch. We don't want that on his jacket. We want this to be its own thing. So there's two ways to go about doing this. So let's start with that. So if you want to remove a component, as you see we have textures here, and we want, let's say, this patch removed, and we want these handcuffs removed. But as you see, if I move the model, they're kind of stuck to the model, right? You can't get rid of them. But we actually can, as long as they have their own textures. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a model that you have these in. So you're going to select it, and whenever you have the orange selection, press your tab button. You'll see these vertices. And you're going to press P and click Buy Material. What will this do? Well, now, as you can see, if we press tab again, we have our shirt. But notice what happens when we move the shirt. The patch stays on, and our handcuffs stay on. And also we can move them independent of one another. So we can move those without moving the shirt or the patches, and the same thing with our radar patch here, right? So let's say divide things up. So now this is really your creative liberty. What do you want to combine? For instance, let's say we want this tourniquet, and we want this kit right here combined. You're going to select these two together, like you have here. One will be orange, one will be a dark color. And with whatever you want selected, you can also hold more to add additional things like this radio pouch. But we'll just do this right now. We're going to select these two things here. Hold down Control and press J. What does that do? Well, now they combine. They're one unit. And as you can see, our Raiders vest with our tourniquet is now patched in with our vest and our other patches, right? So we can move this freely. Also, let's say we want these decals here. Hold down Shift. Click whatever you want to combine. Control J. Alright? And now those patches are all together. Same thing here. We want that US flag, Control J. And as you can see, we can the left flag here, the IR strobe here, and then the front patch all in one thing. So now we can move these in tandem and this in tandem. Alright, now what I recommend doing is just doing that around your model, splitting things up and dividing things as you wish, just to make the model itself feel a little bit more unified. So for instance, I want this fanny pack, I want the chem lights, and I want this altimeter and these chem lights all combined. Control J. Now they're onto one. And let's say I just want the hydration pack on its own, that's fine. And if I just want this on its own, that's also fine. Now before we do anything else, to make sure that you have enough or few enough of these selections, we're going to want to rename our selections to things that we're going to need later. So for instance, if you have any patches, we're going to come up here, you're going to try to scroll to where this is, the selection is, whatever it's highlighting blue, double click on it, and you're going to name it based on a GTA component clothing. So for instance, this will be a decal. And I'll just tag in patches. Alright, this will help you keep organized. On the screen here I'll have a list of things that you need to rename. You cannot go beyond this limit. You can miss some of these, but you can't have more than these. You have to name everything that you have, at least to fit into these 9 or 10 selections, whatever's on the screen here. So for instance, patches here will be called decal. I'm going to call my actual main kit here, scroll down here, I'm going to call this accessories. And then we'll just call it kit. We're going to worry about these combined shirts, but if you have a separate shirt and trousers, call that JBib and lower. I'm going to call this teeth. A lot of holsters are called teeth in-game. Call it teeth host. What else have we got? This radio here, I'll call this task. The hydration pack on the back, I'm going to call this hand. That's what most pedal shirts and backpacks and Bergens are called. I'm just going to call this Bergen, I guess. But now you see I might have run out of space here. I've used up most of the main body components, but I want to add a holster in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my teeth, I'm going to combine it with this fanny pack accessories and make this a singular teeth. And now they're both considered teeth, and I might just rename this to, let's just say fanny host, why not? And now everything should be accounted for. Now once you've done this processing and everything, you can go over here and just select them all by one, drag them out of the way, so that way you know nothing is missing of the model. So there's our teeth, this is our accessories, this radio is our task, these patches are our decals, this hydration pack is our hand. Of course, do this with your torso, your J-bib and your lower, but as you'll see here, nothing remains. This is just for my decals earlier, don't mind that, but nothing remains. This will be our J-bib, these could be our upper, and this will be our lower and feet. So once you've everything done like that, you're sorted, and then we can worry about the props. Props are basically your helmets and your glasses and watches, and you'll do the same thing for these. So make sure you have everything up here that you want assigned and combined, if they already are. And as for your glasses, you might have a case where you want transparency, and 9 times out of 10, whoever made the mod will supply a shader for that, as you'll see will come over here. If we want to make them transparent, temporarily transparent, what we can do is we can just drag our upper slider back for the time being, and we'll deal with this just a little bit later on, but for now we're just going to focus on the main body parts. Let's say you have a head, but you realize that the hair's looking kind of weird. There is an easy fix for that. We're going to go to our shading tab, and you're going to find whatever beard you have over here on the top right. So, for instance, our beard will be here. This is our beard cod. And if you have a beard texture here, as you see if I remove it, the beard is white, right? To fix it, what we have to do is just drag the alpha from the beard into alpha, and as you'll see, the facial hair looks significantly better and just natural in general, right? These beards might have to be channel packed. As you'll see, if you try to tamper around with these, you get different results. Again, you usually set them to none, but in case where there's like little transparency, you can't exactly do that. So now here's a part of the tutorial that is something almost no one covers on the internet, at least in a normal way. And it's not a long process whatsoever, but it's a process that people don't like to share for some reason, or they want to take the longest time to explain. You want to combine multiple of these things into one. You don't want to have more than one thing here. You want to just have the top, whatever it is. You don't want to have two things here. So ideally you want it to look like this. But you'll notice when you remove those textures, or whatever you have, whatever you just combined is going to take the texture of the main thing. Like the tourniquet's kind of messed up. The patch right here is messed up. Control Z that. This is a process called baking, and it's really straightforward. People make this way too complicated for no reason. So follow with me here, and this only applies if you combine things together. So we want the tourniquet, we combine that with the kit, right, in this example. But we want to make this one texture. So here's what we do. We're going to select the first texture, and we'll come down here to these little data. I'm going to click on that, and we'll come down here to UV maps. Press down, press the plus button, and this is extremely important. This will save you a lot of hassle in the future. Rename this second thing you just made here, backspace 0. UV map space 0. Exactly like that. No changes in the case. UV map space 0. Alright? Now what you're going to do here, with this selected, and with this selected, you're going to come up here to UV editing. Alright? You might need to zoom in, don't worry. Just zoom in to where you can at least see everything. You're going to press A with your cursor over here on your model. Press A. Then come over here, you might need to zoom out and press A. Alright, now these things are both selected. Come up here to UV and come down to Pack Islands. You can copy these settings exactly. It's going to probably be standard anyhow. Pack, click Pack. It's going to do that for you, and now you'll see this looks entirely different. No worries. Now here's what we do. So with these selected, come up to your shading tab. Okay, don't freak out about everything I have down here. These are, again, just my different textures for testing, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to come into blank space, right-click, Add, Texture, Image Texture, and you're going to drag it right here. Click New, and if you remember, I had you name certain parts of your model certain ways, like accessories, decal. So for me, this is our accessories. If this is like your decal, you call this decal. But we're going to title it Bake, in all capitals, and that maybe it'll be organized later on. Bake, and then whatever the name you came up with. So for me, it's going to be ACCS. All right. Now these you can keep the same if you have a lower end PC. I always make 4K textures, and that is 4096 by 4096. But what you can also do, let's say we make it just default and standard. Let's say it's the 1024. You always want to have these be the same number. So what you can always do is multiply things by numbers times 2 or times 4. And it'll make a square. So that's a 4K texture. but you can go less. And then we're going to click New Image. All right. Now you realize you have your bake, whatever you have here, selected. This whole thing selected, right? You're going to select it so it's highlighted in white. Press Control C, so you're copying this right here. You're copying this. Come up to here, and you might have more, you might have fewer, depends. Click on your next one. Make sure nothing's selected. Click off everything. Then Control V. Click this, right? And then come down here the next one. Deselect anything in here. Control V. Select that, and do it for the rest that you have until you're on the last one. When you're on the last one, make sure that all these are selected. So your bake whatever is selected. Your bake whatever selected. Your bake whatever selected. This is our image texture, right? You're going to come up to here, render, and you're going to change EV to cycles. Alright, now you won't have to do this every single time, it's just anytime you start up Blender, it'll always put it on EV. Make sure this is on cycles, alright? You can use your GPU or your CPU depending on what you want to prefer here. It does not make a difference, it's just based on speed, really. So CPU. I'm going to come on down to here, to the Bake tab. Now what are we going to do here? Don't get flustered, this is very straightforward. So we're going to click Bake Time to diffuse. Diffuse is essentially why you can see the images as they are. This needs to say diffuse, and then we're going to uncheck direct and indirect lighting. Why do we do that? Because it's going to take lighting from the scene and put it on your textures if you don't. So this is what the scene looks like. It is pitch black because there's no lighting. If we don't have these unchecked, you're going to have the black texture in your bake. So make sure these are unchecked and just color. And once you have that, click Bake. And this, depending on your PC, will take some serious amount of time. So real quick, this usually takes me, depending on the textures, anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes. It might take you more, might take you less. Depends on how good your CPU or GPU are. So I'm going to check back with you when this is done. Alright, now as we get to the end of the baking process here, as you'll see there's a progress bar down here. And when the 1% goes away, it will say a message in a matter of time. Alright, and as you'll see, we have a thing here called Baking Map Saved to Eternal Image. We can save it, and you'll see your map now is here. So what do we do now? So we're going to come up here to these three bars, go down to Image, and go up to Save or Save As. I'm going to click Save As. I usually do Save As. And let's go to our project folder. And now this is going to start getting piled up. So we're just going to call it, it's going to have the name that you already want. Just keep it as that big accessories, Save As Image. Alright? Now we have the image. So if we come up to Layout, when I come over here to UV Map, we have to do this step. Come down here to UV Map on Layout, select the first one, and delete it. Now what happened? This looks really bizarre, doesn't it? Do not worry, we can easily fix this. If we come down to Materials, I'm going to remove all these materials here, and we're going to have a white blank slate of a canvas. All you do, come down to New, you have a new material here, and you come over to Shading, right, because we want to texture it, and we're going to right-click, Add, Texture, Image Texture, drag that there. Open up, go to our project folder and find our bake accessory, or whatever you have, your bake whatever. Double click that, and then we're going to plug that right into there, and as you'll see, voila, our texture is on the model. Excuse me. So if we remove it, it's gone. Add it back, there it is. So that's what we do for every process. Now, I'm going to have you do this, but real quick, in case you're a fast learner, I'm just going to speed run the next bit. So remember, I combine these together. There are 3 textures here as well. So if you want to do this fast with me, here's the process I do. Make sure all these are here. UV map, double click. Back up, UV map 0, everything selected. UV editing, press A here, UV, pack islands, pack, let it pack its thing. I'm recording so it's taking longer. There's our pack. Go to the shading tab. Delete any the bake if we have another one there. Image texture. New. This will be our bake teeth, as this is the holster, and I have my dimensions there for 4K textures. Select that, copy, go to your materials, chem light, or whatever's down here next, paste, select, make sure that's selected, come over here, make sure it's selected, go to the mold, double check, only the bake is selected, come up here to render, come on down to bake, and boom. And that's the process. Repeat that process for every part, so that way you only have one material in this slot here. Alright, so I'll check back with you when this whole thing is done. This will probably take me about 15 minutes in total. So this will be a very time-consuming process. If your PC is really good, it should take about that same time. If you have a slow PC, this might take several hours if it's really like low spec. So this part will take time. Go do something. Again, when you check back, make sure there's nothing down here. That'll let you know you're fine. And then this image down here will update. So I'll check back with you lot once I'm done baking every part of my model. Alright, welcome back. So now our model should be fully baked. As you'll see, we have our bake accessory, bake decal, bake eyes, bake head. Essentially, you have all these things baked, including the helmet and everything else. So now what it's time to do is to import our GTA 5 3-mode melt model. So as you see, remember our sacred folder from before, and that the important folder that you made, or whatever you call it. You're going to go back into your project, and since you copied them over, they're all ready for you to import. So you're just going to select all the files here, except for this. Do not accept this. So you can hold down Shift, it selects all of them for you, or just at the top, hold Shift, it gets everything. Import Cold Walker. Now you're going to see the model is going to look very different compared to where it is. Usually it's going to be above it, it might be below it, or on the same face, it depends. Now what we want to do is the fun part. Now we're going to try to scale it, and I say fun facetiously. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our model, and we want to grab it by these little grey nodes here. With the Steam Workshop models, they have valve-paired bones. These are bones you're hitting. You don't want to grab the full model itself, you want to grab these little nodes, so that way it selects the external, and you're going to drag it until it's roughly within the online character. Now from here, this is going to be basically how good your eyes are. We want to scale this so that way the poses are exactly matching. So what I like to do is I take the shirt, and I'm going to come over to the top right here, and I'm going to scroll until I see something highlighted. Now, you can barely see it, but in the top right you see this is highlighted. If I deselect the shirt, or if I select something else, it won't be highlighted anymore. But if I select the shirt, and click on that, you'll see that's highlighted. Click off it. If I click something else, as you can see, it selects something else. I'm going to go down here, click that, and then click that, so J shirt, or whatever you have there, JBib, and I'm going to take this eye icon off. Alright, now you can just see that the shirt's gone, but the hands are there. We want to scale this model, your source model, so that way it's congruent with the base online model. So take these nodes, and we'll come over here if we want to scale it up or down. And since this is a 3D model, you have your x-axis here, your y-axis is green, and then your z-axis, which is up and down, that is your blue. So what I like to do though, I like to keep it as even as possible, and I just drag outside of all these, don't select any of them. You can just drag up or down. And your goal is to make sure that the feet align with the vanilla feet. So I'll drag that down there. All whilst your eyes align with the other eyes. So we'll drag this up a little bit, and then maybe move the feet a wee bit. Seems like they're fine. And you kind of have to play around with this just a wee bit by sliding it back and forth and seeing where the eyes kind of match. So as you can see, my eyes are just barely off kilter. Something else I can do is disable the eyewear entirely. I could find my eyes and just turn off the icon. However, as you'll see if I move the skeleton, I turn the eyes back on, they'll still follow with the model. So just to make it easy on me, I'm going to turn off the eyewear. And sometimes you might need to scale it in a different direction and make it a little bit wider if you want it to fit extremely well. It's completely up to you. You really want those eyes to be matched together. If you want to fine-tune your scaling, you can basically scale it as it was before and set it as close as you can. And you can come down to resize, and then you can type in individual values. Less than 1 makes it smaller, more than 1 makes it greater. So as you can see, I need to increase my model size. So what I can do here is I can increase the scale. Let's say I want to go to 1 on each axis. It'll put things up or down, but I don't want it to go that far. So I go 0099, let's say 6. And just copy that number for each and just paste it and see how it goes from there. Now the eyes are very close to being aligned. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, as long as it's just within the ballpark. Just make sure that your feet are also aligned, in which case they can be in the floor just a wee bit. It's really a personal preference thing, but for the most part you wouldn't notice it if it's in the ground. So this will be the main scaling, and then we could turn our glasses back on, and then that's our scaling. Now, this will be a little bit fine since we don't have to worry about the up and down, we just have to worry about the y-axis here. We need to focus on making sure the head does not clip, as every online head essentially uses the same neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to disable our upper. So we're going to come over here and select these arms. This will make it easy. I'm going to scroll down until we see the little glowing here. This will be our hands. And we'll disable this. And whatever pink you see left, if there's no arms, that is going to tell you, hey, if someone puts this on, that's going to cause a clipping problem. So what we can do now is we can come to our model, and we're just going to scale it up in the same way. Well, we have two options, really. We can either make it go forward, or we can scale it to be both directions. In this case, scaling it back might just be the solution, and then making it move up just a wee bit. Alright, and now as you can see, the purple, the pink, whatever, is no longer here. Although now we can see there's a clipping issue in the back. So that'll tell me, hey, we need to scale this a little bit more in our direction. So if we just do a little bit of an adjustment there, maybe take down the multiplier just a wee bit until there's no clipping in the back. See how little we can get away with. There's still a little pixel there that we will not settle for that. Keep going. It's slowly getting smaller. But you just play with it until there's no pink showing. Alright, there we go. So this will be our model now. And don't worry about the face. 9 times out of 10 you're not going to be conflicting the face for 3mm, so I'm not going to really cover that, because that has its own kind of worms. Alright, now as you can see we go around the model, and again don't worry about the trousers, but as you can see there's no clipping with the neck, so what we can do now is enable our hands. And now we want to mimic the online character pose to our, in this case, marine pose, or whatever model you're using. So it's pretty straightforward to do that. Make sure again you have these little bones selected for the male. Don't make sure it's not for the free mode male, but for the model that you're working, make sure you select these bones. With these bones selected, you come up here, object mode, change this to pose mode. And you're going to change this to a lasso, it makes it a lot easier. And if you hold down any part of the model, you'll see you can select blue little circles, and if you change those, you can rotate them at will, you can scale them up or down, which I don't recommend, and I definitely don't recommend moving them. As you see, you can modify any part of the mesh. What we're trying to do now is we want to mimic the online character's pose, and this will take some trial and error. So the first things first is you want to try to align the gloves and your arms as closely to the original as possible. You might have to scale things up or down just a wee bit, so it's not noticeable. Again, I don't recommend doing this part so much. If you scale it down up and down a wee bit, it's not going to be the end of the world. But it's whenever you go to extreme values that things can kind of mess up with your mesh. And again, this is kind of a see how well you do by arm, hand sort of thing. Really the results you get here just depends on how much time you want to put into the model itself. How much time you put into the model and mimicking the pose will reflect how well it lines up with the bones for the free mode character. Essentially, you don't want really any pink to show around cuffs when it comes to your long sleeve model. You just want to have it so that way it covers your based online hand perfectly. When it comes to fingers, it can get a little bit tricky. You do want to mimic the fingers as well if you're working on gloves. The closer, it's not going to be perfect no matter what. You really won't get this perfectly, but the closer you can get your fingers to the original online model, the better off and easier your life will be in another part of this tutorial where we're going to actually copy the transforms. Yeah, this process in general can be kind of strenuous. It's not exactly fun trying to mimic this. I wouldn't say this is the most tedious part. That will be coming up later, sadly, but that's only if you're working with fingers. If you're not working with fingers, then you don't have to work this part of this tutorial. You'll be fine. But if you're not working with fingers and this portion of the tutorial really doesn't apply to you so much, you also might have to scale up and down fingers if you're doing gloves or just custom hands in general. But if you are doing fingers, again, a key thing to keep note of is to not have parts of your mesh or your model, that's another word for mesh, overlap with each other, because that will cause problems down the line. You actually want the models to clip in with one another. Alright, now that we have our pose all set up and sorted, and yeah, you're going to want some clipping for the most bit. Now we want to have this pose as our default pose here. So what we're going to do, if you name these conventionally like I asked you to earlier, we're going to come down to where we have all of our stuff listed, and we're going to go one by one down the list. So we're going to go to accessories, and you'll probably be maybe here, let's say. You're going to select one of these up top, and then come down to this wrench icon, and you're going to click on these drop-down menus here. Apply. You're just going to click Apply, and it will go away. Then do this for the rest of them. So, bird, apply. Again, depending on what you have, you might do this several times. You might have more than what I have. It depends. So, hand apply. Head, apply. Now, if you're doing helmets or eyewear, you could still do apply here. It's just, we're going to be treating those a little bit differently down the road. So, task apply, and teeth apply. Now that we have all those applied, we're going to come over here and select our bones, and come up here to object mode, pose mode. I'm going to press A on our keyboard, come up to pose, apply pose as rest pose. What does this do? Well, now if we try to move the model, it's going to stay in this pose no matter what. And this next part is going to be kind of frustrating, so I'm just going to warn you now. However, all the transforms to the skeleton will mostly remain the same. At least the pose will remain the same. So now what we're going to do is go to object mode, and I'm going to select all of these things. So you select your top and go all the way down to the bottom. And what we're going to do now is we're going to find our shirt, the JBib that we saved from earlier, or anything works. So here's our J shirt. If we enable this, you'll see that's our original vanilla shirt underneath it. What we're going to do is we're going to look at where it is, we're going to look for this underneath the scale, this JB14. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Shift with all of these selected. We're going to hold down Shift and kind of meander our way over to the shirt and drag it where it says this. Now you'll notice the whole model got shifted upwards. Do not worry, you're alright. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come down to Object Mode, and we're going to select it to move it, and now all we have to do is just kind of rescale our model. This is a very annoying process, but we do have to copy the transforms, but at least now the model is in the proper pose that the online character was in. So, rescale your model. I know this is a little bit of a pain in the ass to do, but at least the poses will be correct. Again, a key important thing to do for this is to simply look at the feet and match the feet and the eyes to be congruent as best as you can. So I'm pretty happy with how my model is now, but since we did the skeleton, as you'll see, your hands will kind of align with how you had them before, and they will no longer be clipping, like we fixed the clipping purple bit from earlier. That is also applied here. It's just the positioning of the pose and the scaling are kind of contorted, but for the most part this will be fine, and again you can do all this stuff in the back here. So the hands might be a little bit weird, that's no problem. What do we do next? So now we need to focus on removing the bones from all of our models. So now that we have everything in a nice and orderly fashion, we can enable our eyes again whilst we're at it. Now that our model is all sorted now, what we can do is remove the existing bones from this model and it won't affect it. So check this out. So we'll go one by one again. So let's click on accessories, right? Come down to this icon here, this little green triangle. I'm going to click on that and you'll see a bunch of this data that Steam has for you. It's simple. Click this drop down here and we're just going to delete all the groups. And nothing happens, right? Same thing here. Bird, delete all groups. And you're going to rinse and repeat this for every single model that you have here. As what this is doing is this is unpairing the bones that Steam has, and we're going to be replacing them with the GTA bones in just a second. So let's delete all these groups here. Alright, now as we go through, just double check all parts of your mesh, all parts of your model, and make sure there's nothing in the Vertex group section. If there's nothing there, you're all sorted. Now it's time to have a little fun painting. What do I mean by painting? Well, we're going to do something called Vertex painting. Vertex painting, we're going to click up here. You'll notice the model is white and there might be some discoloration. Do not worry, you're fine. Vertex painting will essentially assign colors. We'll paint the model in different colors of paint, and those colors will give it different attributes. So orange is what we're going to be using, and there's 3 different attributes, and I'll get to that in just a second. So to start things simply, let's just go down the list so that way we're organized, right? So our accessories, we start with accessories, wherever the top of your list will be, and it's our kit from earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here with that selected, go to Vertex Paint, and what do we do here? Well, we're going to come down to Color Attributes, click down this, and you'll see there's an attribute there. We can remove it if we want, and we're going to have 2 colored attributes here. We're going to press the plus icon 1 time, click on the name, and make sure you call this color space 1. Alright, and now what we're going to do is we're going to click face corner for the domain, and the data type will be byte color. So color 1, face corner, byte color, add. And we're going to do the same thing for another color attribute, but it's all going to have it set up for you. So color, make sure this is color space 2. Alright, so we have color 1 and color 2. Now what do we do? So make sure color 1 here is selected. I'm going to come up here to the top of our screen, click on this black color here, change this value up here, and we're just going to slide this anywhere in this domain. So different colors will have different properties. I will have a link below on what they do. For instance, pink will make things glow, orange will make things attached to bones, and that's what you're primarily going to be using. So we're going to have orange. Now what I recommend doing is making this radius go up quite a bit. We want to paint the whole model, right? So I'm just going to jack this up, and we're just going to paint the entire model orange for our color 1. Make sure color 1 is selected. That is critical for this. Alright, color 1 selected, it's painted orange. Make sure every part of it's painted orange. Now we're going to select color 2, and it's black again, but we don't want to paint this orange. What we want to do now is come up to our shading tab. We want to click in blank space, right click. I'm going to come over here to input, and come up to color attribute. And we're going to drag this node here. Now we want to click this, and since we have color 2 selected, you might not be able to see it. And let me help you out here. So color 2. We've got color 2 here. We're going to take this, let's look at our model so you can see what we're doing. We're going to take this right here. We're going to drag this alpha button into the base color. Alright, it's going to be pure white. Don't freak out. We're going to fix this. Come up to this little, it's going to be hard to see, come to this little drop down, this little arrow up here. Click that open and come down to Sollumz Tools. You're going to click on General, Vertex Painter, come down here to Terrain Paint, and we're going to set this number here. It says it's at 0 right now, right? And click on it. -0.09. Boom. And now I'm going to click on Paint Alpha, and make sure this is on Terrain Brush. And now if we do this, we're going to notice that the model, we're going to paint it, it's going to turn black. And that is exactly what we want to happen. Now, what do these things do? So orange is the vertex wind. The orange that we painted was wind for the most bit. The second paint is shine, and this right here is going to determine sweat. So let's say you want sweat. You would make this a positive value, so let's say 0.5, right? And you would go to add alpha. And if you want to have a sweaty kit for whatever reason, you could do that. We're not going to do that, though, so I'm going to come back down to here. I'm going to set this back to erase alpha. Alright, so once this is all black, we're going to take our main texture. I'm going to drag this color into base color, and voila, we're back. Come back to layout and select color 1, and that's done. We're going to repeat this for the rest. So now, like I did before, we're going to speed run this, so that way, if you want to do this a little bit again, watch the previous section. Now I'm going to speed run this as if I did this normally, but I'll talk over. So, next order of business. Next thing is the bird. Come down here, color 1, boom. Come down here, color 2, boom. Select color 1, up here, vertex paint. Paint the beard. Again, I might go all the way through, but I always love to double check because I don't want my beard flapping in the wind, you know. Boom, that's fine. That's black, that's fine. Shading, right click, input, color attribute, down here, color 2, boom, alpha, boom. Click the paint alpha button, go to town on it. Beard looks nice, it's all covered in our alpha here. Perfectly fine. Color, base color, layout, color 1, done. Object mode, here we go. So now all we're doing is basically we're repeating this whole process for the rest of the body. Orange literally is the new black, I suppose you could say here, yeah? Gotta squeeze out at least one bloody corny joke whilst we're at it, right? Gotta have some fun with our life here. A lot of things here, don't worry about any of this. Nah, don't get caught, you bastard. Right, so now that you have the gist of it, I'll check back with you in just a moment, once we have all of our stuff painted, and we'll go from there, yeah? Alright, once you've got it done, just make sure you double check and that everything has been painted properly, with the proper alpha. Again, the orange is so that way we have our wind, and the alpha we paint is for our sweat. But make sure everything's done, including our props. We want to make sure that you also paint your props. So, in my case, I have this helmet here, this fast helmet, Vertex paint. It's also painted, and yes, it's also alpha painted as well, as you can see right here. So, when you have that done, we are now ready to move on to the next phase, which is converting bones. But before that, and this is optional, so I'm going to have this as its own chapter. Let's say you have a model, and maybe you had a question earlier and you're wondering about this. Let's say you have a model like this, where oh no, I want the trousers, and I want the sleeves, and I want the gloves all separated. Well, at least with my experience with Blender, there might be an easier way to go about this. However, this can be quite annoying. What we have to do now is we basically are going to edit the model, so that way we make these their own parts. Now, the reason why I waited this late is so that way we can copy over all the data. So if we press Shift-D, and like move this over here, it makes a copy, right? We have the original and the copy. If you notice, though, the copy, as you'll see here, and we go to Vertex Paint mode, it'll also be orange, just like the original. That's why we waited till now to do this, alright? So that way we don't have to redo the whole steps. So what we do now is make sure we have a body, or whatever you want to edit. We're going to hold down Shift and D, don't move your mouse cursor, and just press your left mouse button. And as you know, we're going to scroll up to the source, and now we can make one invisible, and it looks like there's no difference. If we make them both visible, but we make one, you'll realize we've duplicated the mesh, or the model. So what we want to do now is we want to come down here, and we want to make one of these our torso. So we'll make this our JBRB jacket, okay? And then we'll take the other one, and we'll make this our lower trousers. And because there's gloves involved, and that's what he's requesting, I'll make a third one, and make this UPPR gloves, okay? So now we have 3 versions of this one thing. And we can easily access and turn them on or off all up here easily. And again, like I said, they all have, we're not there yet, just give me a second. They all have their Vertex stuff applied. So the worst part about this comes with editing the model so that way only certain things are appearing. So what we need to do now is we need to mask disable things that are in the way. So for instance, this is, we can go back into this mode now. We need to get rid of the fanny pack, so we'll just disable that. We need to get rid of the kit, so we'll disable that. You know, our accessories. We need to get rid of this radial here, so we'll disable that. And that should just leave us with the base model. Yeah, so there's nothing in the way. So if we take all 3 of these, and we move them at once, We do have decals, I forgot. That's why we do that. So, if we take all three of these now, and we move them up once, and we do have a hydration pack, disable that. Okay, now, if we take all three of these, and move them one by one, now you'll see there's nothing left. So, what we should do now is, and again, this might not apply to you, but if this does, this is going to be a pain in the arse, but it's just going to be kind of keeping an eye on things, alright? We are going to disable our vanilla components, so disable our online hands, disable our online feet, although in this case it's not necessary, but if you're separating the shoes, you can also keep the shoes as shout. You can keep the shoes as trousers for the most bit with these models, and they work fine, because the trousers do have the feet bones in them. But we need to get rid of the hands, which we've done, and the shirt. And also the trousers, which are down here. Get rid of those. And so now we can work on our model. Now, as you can see, all they have left is just the head and everything else. Alright, so let's get going. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to enable certain things and only enable one at a time. So here we just want the jacket, right? What I want to do, though, is I usually start with the trousers. The reason being, it's a little bit easier and it's more forgiving, because if you delete too much or too little of the jacket, you can... It's a little bit easier to get away with deleting too much or too little of the trousers. So we can kind of take that liberty here. So we're going to come to the trousers, and we're going to press our tab key. And then what we're going to do, depending on how you want to do this, we want to end up deleting the top. So what I do, I come up here and I change this to the lasso, which is probably already for you. And I come up here, and what this does is it allows me to delete multiple parts all the way through the model, all in one time. Now, let's say I don't have it on and I turn it off. Well, what happens? Well, if I delete the model, it looks like nothing gets deleted, right? Like, I'm deleting things, but only some things remain. What this option up here does for you, let's press tab again, this allows you to delete all the vertices, which are these little pinpoints that you see that make up the model. It allows you to delete all of the vertices, no matter where they are in the model. So if I do this, we delete the entire hand. If I do this, which is, well, if I do this, it deletes the left arm. And this is the riskiest part, but if I do this, you have to kind of guesstimate where it's going to be. It deletes the main model. Now, our goal is to get rid of this excess shirt. And there are multiple ways to do this, but you can do this by faces, and I'll show you that in just a second. But for now, we can just kind of go like this. Now, the trousers, they can be fine. I mentioned by faces. If there's like a face of a shirt, for instance, you can come up here and click this icon. And if you select this, it'll delete all the faces. And you'll see that it leaves a little bit of a gap. Make sure you turn this off, though, if you use that option. But that's not usually how I make these things. I usually stick to vertices and kind of do these by hand. So what you should focus on now is kind of going around the model and trying to make this little outcrop for these trousers. This is not a very fun part of this. This is one of the most egregious bits, I will admit. And also, you want to avoid conditions where you have something like these, like floating vertices. These will appear. They won't cause your game to crash or anything major like that. But they will appear and they will move with bones, and they are kind of a pain in the arse if you do leave them behind. Just keep an eye out for those. You just want to delete everything related to the top that you can, or whatever you're working on at the moment. I'll say this again, if you're working on a Modern Warfare 2 models, or just other models in general, you might not even have to do a step, period. Alright, so this is really just a hassle, because how Infinity Ward makes the models, at least on IW8X, was they just compiled the top and the trousers together into one. This is also how I port things from Greyhound, is they have the same sort of issue where all the models are just together. But the end goal here is to make sure there is no part of the model that is see-through. So it's going to look like a mess. You just have to kind of work through this mess until everything gets deleted. I mean, everything, every part of that top gets deleted, the best you can at least. Again, with the trousers, the reason why I do this first, you can get some leeway with them. You can get away with doing some stuff. Like, you can leave parts of it, but I always try to get as much as I can off the model itself. Minimize the clutter. So as you can see, we kept the belt intact, but we still have a few little erroneous places that the jacket's leaving behind here. And yeah, this bit will take you some time, kind of going around the model, seeing what's going on, and deleting all the vertices that aren't related to the trousers. If at any point you want to see, hey, am I missing any vertices to delete everything, press tab, and you'll see if you missed any part of the model. Like, for instance, this little line right here, right? It'll come up like a little line. Simply press tab again, and you can just delete those right off, and you're good to go. And just keep doing that around the model. It's just a little quick tip for you, so that way you can see if you're missing any parts. Alright, so for now, pretty satisfied with how these trousers are looking. Now what we can do is we can enable the jacket layer, and if we disable the trousers, nothing's going to change. And that makes sense, right? Because we only edited the trousers layer. So if we take off the trousers, let's work on our jacket. Again, we'll press tab, and then make sure that this up here is selected, and we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to kind of find the lowest point of our top, so it looks like it's about back here or so, and we could press this button, but it kind of makes a grid where it's kind of hard to edit, right? But we could press that and kind of edit down below, but just kind of delete the main part of the trousers. If you have gloves, delete the main bits of the gloves the best you can. And just be careful when you delete a lot of things like this. Don't delete too much, otherwise the back part of your maybe jacket might become a problem, and it might clip out and delete part of your jacket vertices. Now, another helpful tip why we do the trousers is if you at any time feel like you're deleting too much, you can always just toggle the trousers back on to see, hey, is this part of the trousers? Are these different? And if they connect, then yes. If not, then no. So for instance, this drawstring here is part of the jacket, obviously, but let's say you didn't know that. Well, if you disable the trousers, it's not there, right? This retention lanyard, on the other hand, is part of the trousers, but you might think it's part of the shirt. If you disable the trousers, it's no longer there. So that kind of help you in determining what part of the model you should be deleting, which bits you should be leaving alone. Another warning, if you delete too much, don't go too far. Always double, triple check, because you can keep pressing Control Z to undo deletions that you want to undo, but Blender does have a limit as to how many you can do. I think it's about 15 before it doesn't let you undo anymore, so always save your project periodically if you need. I very much recommend it. If Blender crashes at any time, you can always come up here, go to File, Recover, Last Session, or Autosave. Alright, now I've got my top looking pretty much how I want to. I got the glove bits removed, I got the trouser bits removed, and to verify that everything is clipping just fine and fitting together, as you can see, we'll look around the trousers, the torso area, and if we're looking for invisible things, that could be a problem. We've got to restore something. However, everything here looks just fine. If I disable the trousers, there's the top. If I disable the top, there's the trousers. So we're looking good. Time for the gloves. I'll be right back when the gloves are done. Alright, so now I've pretty much got my gloves looking exactly how I want to. So let's double check with the top now. So the top will fit. Alright, take off that. Is there any problem? There is not. As the overlap with the jacket covers any mistake that you would have made, or I make in this case. And then same thing here, is there any overlap? Of course not. So everything is working now, and now we have our own components. So what do we do now? Well, we are now in basically the near final stage. We're in the final stage of our Blender bit now. So what we're going to do, come down to where all of our components are, and we're just going to re-enable all of them once more. So our fanny pack, our accessories, whatever you have, just enable everything so that way they're all visible again. And now we're going to go down the list and do something called converting to a drawable. And what that entails is essentially turning this model into something that GTA 5 can understand and see, hey, that is a model, and it's supposed to be on a character, also known as a drawable. So what we do is we're going to come down our list here. So let's start with the accessories. Again, in case this got closed for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to accessories, and we'll come over here to drawables. Come down here, click this option here, and we're going to click, whilst this is selected and this is orange, click convert to drawable model. Nothing really fancy is going to happen. Make sure this comes up. We're going to go one by one down the line. Convert to drawable model. Down here. Right? The patches. We're going to do this for every single one that we have. Convert to drawable model. Make sure that the little alert down there flashes up. Also, if you do use the split method, you'll notice that you might have a different UV map down here. For instance, UV gloves. So what we're going to do, come down here and just add the 0 to it. That's fine. Because we don't have to rebake anything. Now, if you think that you've forgotten anything, it doesn't have to go one by one and make sure you convert them all to drawables. You can duplicate the drawables as many times as you need. It does not matter. Like, I can make eyes drawables many times. As long as you click it at least one time, you'll be sorted. Alright, now that all of our models are converted to drawables, now what we can do are multiple things depending on when you come back to this tutorial and what flows for you. What I like to do next is I like to divide these into categories that are already available. So, for instance, remember that shirt that we imported from earlier? So I'm going to make the lower visible. I'm going to make the shirt visible. And I like to put things into categories where they already are named kind of what they are. So the jacket in this case will stay, but let's say the trousers we made, we're going to drag those trousers by selecting it, holding Shift, holding a left mouse button, and dragging them into this little thing here. Now it's part of that. That's what I like to do. So the shoes, like from earlier, the J feet, we're not really going to use that actually because I didn't convert shoes, but if you use shoes, you do the same thing for that. That's really just to ensure that, hey, we have things stabilized on the ground, the feet touch the ground. That's really what we use that for. But for instance, I'm converting a head in this case. So I would come to my head, my online character head. You can barely see poking out the side there. I'm going to take this head, this Infinity Ward head, and drag it into that head slot. This makes sure that I'm completely organized. You do not, however, do this for these props. You don't need to do it for any props, helmets, or glasses, or watches. That's a completely different process. I'll show you in a bit. So same thing. So we have our gloves. We'll take our gloves and drag them into our upper category, where our hands are. As you can see, they're together in there. So I just found accessories in the game I've already ported. It doesn't matter. You can put them all in one, guys, because we're going to do something similar later on. It's just nice to have namesakes. So if you have an accessory, put them into an accessories parent. Again, this is just all for organizational purposes. It's not really for any other reason. So now things kind of make more sense. We have our burden where our shirt is, and we've got our jacket where our decals are. So it all makes a little bit more sense. We're going to take our beard, actually. I'm going to put that with our head. That way that makes more sense. That way everything is somewhat organized. So now what are we going to do next? So we can either convert bones, or we can change our textures. And this is where Photoshop comes in. And if you recall from earlier, I mentioned Photoshop is optional, and that is true. If you don't have Photoshop or have no means to get it, in the description I will have a file called, I'll call it link 1DDS in the description below is what I'll call the file. And it'll have two things in there that you can use for this bit, but just know your models won't be as high quality if you don't have Photoshop. So if you do have Photoshop, this is where we can start doing our textures. In order to export these models, which we're not done yet, which we still have another step to do with our bones. We can't just export these models right now. We still have to convert bones, and we have to do textures, which we're going to be doing textures now. Now, in order to export these models, for instance, you can't just export this right now. We don't even have any bones assigned to it just quite yet, as you can see here. In order to export these models, we have to convert the textures into a format that GTA 5 can read. And that is where Sollumz Tools is really useful. So what we're going to do, kind of go around our model, and we'll find our accessories, and we'll come down here to Shaders Tool. Now, you have to do this. You cannot export models without doing this. Come down to Shaders Tools here. You're going to go to this little drop-down arrow and just type in PED. Now, there's a lot of different results that can happen here, like PED emissive, which is going to make things glow, whatnot. However, you're going to want to click PED for most of these things. If you have, like, for instance, a beard, for instance, paired hair cutout alpha will be for a beard, but most of the time, it's going to be just PED, and that's all you need. So you're going to click on Convert Active Material. And don't freak out. You're going to see a lot of things popping up saying you're missing things. Don't worry. We're going to go one at a time as we go through this. So, we just converted this to active material, this one thing, right? Come to our shading tab. What do you notice? This looks completely different, right? Just for reference, in case you forgot. This is what it used to look like. Now it looks like this. This is because this is everything that has to be optimized for GTA 5 to load your textures. Now, as you'll notice, your base texture that you used earlier is already here. But there are a few things missing, and this is why this is shiny. So come down here to the spec sampler, and you're going to go in the description below, and I've got a file for you, again, that link 1 DDS, and you're going to put in a file I have saved here, and it's going to be titled one of these. So for this call, put in the Specular Universal, and come down here, and if you don't have Photoshop, you're going to come down here and click open and put in normal bump. And yes, it looks normal, but remember, if you have Photoshop, there's a different thing we're going to do. So remember that we have our baked texture here, right? So if you haven't already, you should have a bake accessories and you should have saved that already, right? Because we plugged that in. What you can do now is we're going to open up Photoshop. And again, the normal map would suffice, but this really gives you additional textures. Alright, we're going to come to our project folder, right? And in this case, I'm using what? Bake accessories. So whatever it is, if it's like lower, J, whatever you're using there, drag that file into Photoshop. And it's going to look normal. It's exactly what you expect. Right, this is exactly what we baked several minutes ago, maybe half an hour ago, probably several hours ago, it depends. This is what we baked. We made this. What we're going to do now, we're going to come to Filter, come down to 3D, and we're going to create a normal map. Generate a normal map. What this does is it uses AI, and not the shite AI that makes those stupid pictures. This uses like rendering technology to find out where are there a lot of contrast, and it adds bumps to them. And you'll see it's going to look a little bit bizarre if you have not seen these before. You're just going to click OK, everything default is fine. And once you do this, this is where that DDS plugin comes in. This is what we use to have additional detail. I'm going to go to File, not Export as PNG. I'm going to go to File, Save As. Come down here, change PNG to DDS, and make sure you press N here. So bake access, lowercase n. You don't have to title it that, but whatever you have to type in to make sure it's normal. For the export, I'm always going to do DTX5 and transparency, just in case. It's just a universal thing I do. There might be a more optimal way to go about this, but this is how I get a lot of fidelity, is doing that. Don't have to worry about messing around with formats. So just let it export right there, and once it's all done with, let's come back to our Blender, and come down here, and it looks good. If we come over here, and we go to our project folder, and we come over here and we look for our bake accessory normal right here. It doesn't look crazy, but there's a lot more detail and you're going to notice it in game. Now, before we do anything else, I know there's a lot going on. Follow your attention over to this panel here. What we're going to do now is we're going to scroll down a little bit to get to the Sollumz thing here. Click down here, and we're going to click on texture parameters. Alright? And you're going to make sure that was a DDS file. Now, both the things I supply in the description are DDS, so don't worry. If it's not a DDS, that's why you have to export this as a DDS. It'll let you embed these. If these aren't DDSs, you cannot embed these. You have to embed these to make the model look good. So click embed here, click embed there. Come on down to value parameters, scroll down here, and copy the settings I put in here. For the first one, which is our shine, 0. You can see it already changed the model. For here, type this 17674, and then for bumpiness, 0.73. Alright, that gives our model some more fidelity, and it makes it look overall great in game. Now, I'm going to come up to the data tab. I'm going to come up here to UV maps, add missing. And now we're sorted. Now we can carry on and do this for the rest of our stuff. So, again, it's time to speedrun this. So, as I said, I demonstrated one time before. Now it's time to speedrun. So, we're going to work on our fanny pack next here, right? So, what we're going to do, PED right here, convert it to material. Looks kind of weird, don't worry. Shading tab, boom. We'll come up to our spec sampler, open the spec sampler. We're going to do our specular universal. Don't worry about the color. And then bump sampler. This is something that we baked. Remember that. And we could see our texture is, what is our texture? Our texture's teeth. So we've got teeth. Come to Photoshop. Drag the teeth thing into here. So we've got baked teeth. Drag it up there. Give it some time. Filter, 3D, bump map. Let it do its thing. It's going to generate it for us. Okay. Come up here. File, same as. N, and come down to DDS, save, this format, boom. Then, in our shading tab, open, Blender, Project, TFN, all the fidelity is back. Then we come over here to our materials, embed these two textures, make this 0, make this 17674, make this 0.73, up here, add missing, and voila. Now, before I leave you on your own and do this on your own, I do want to mention, what about the shirt? We never baked the shirt. We never baked this radio. We never baked the hydration pack, right? This is where you come back to your Gmod folder. So I'll show you what to do. So we're going to do it like normal. Let's just do our shirt here. We're going to convert that. Alright, it looks really jank. Come over here. Now, don't worry about anything else here. I mean, yes, you can put your specular in right now. You should do it anyhow. So, boom, specular universal, fine, whatever. But we don't have a normal map for this shirt. That's where we come and do back into our Gmod folder. And we look for that texture that we used, which is our body MP Western Milsim USMC, right? Come on down to that. And we're just going to look for the N. Something with N underscore. That says E. This says N. And as you'll see, right here, we need to make this not channel packed. As you'll see, there's already a map for us. This is what we're going to use for all this. So we're just going to come here, image, save as, blended projects, or whatever you've got. And then we'll just call this, I guess, JBRBN. Right? We don't have to worry about Photoshop with that bit. If you don't have Photoshop, that doesn't matter. You can just simply rip it straight from Gmod if they provide it. If they don't provide it from you, then yes, you'll have to save it as an image and then go do the same process. But as you can see, come back here, JBRBN, and we're looking great. And just come down here and just change our settings back to how they used to be. Boom, boom, made that 0. And everything's looking a lot more crisp. So now, I'm just going to leave it off to you, and I'll see you whenever I have my thing done, and we'll reconvene and worry about the bones. Because we're almost done with this. If you've gotten this far, appreciate your patience. This is going to pay off in the long run. So let's say you have glasses here, right? The frame would be normal PED, but the glass would actually be PED alpha. So you convert that to the active material. And the nodes will look sort of different. They won't look exactly the same. You can put a specular in if you want. I usually do just in case. But that kind of does cause some problems in the end. I mean, you could make the intensity 0 if you really wanted to. But how much shine you want from this, you can individually control. Like how reflective the glass is from the specular map there. I'm just going to keep it at 0 for the sake of this. And for the bump map, sort of same thing. The whole process is roughly the same. For the bump map, sort of same thing. The whole process is roughly the same. Just make sure you embed those, but that's what you do if there's glass. That way alpha allows the material to be transparent. And I usually don't touch any of these whenever I have pet alpha. And of course, add the other UV map if you haven't already. As for what I did with the beard, I did a pet hair cutout. That's what I do for beards. Now, my entire model has been converted to GTA 5. There is only one thing left to do now, and that is to simply get the bones converted. Now, I want to preface this by saying, if you're not working on gloves, this is a piece of cake to do. If you're working on gloves, this is a nightmare to do. But it's the last step before we prepare these things for export. So, by getting bones, there's a reason why we imported this clothing. Yes, for reference, but also we're going to be stealing the bones off of the vanilla clothing and putting it onto our new clothing here. So, what we're going to do is something called weight painting. What is weight painting? Well, I'll show you. So, we're going to select our vanilla clothing, so you can't see it, but this is the pink shirt underneath. We're going to hold down our shift key. We're going to shift click our custom mesh or our custom clothing, and you'll see our jacket selected and our original clothing selected. Make sure it's in this order. Original model, followed by shift click your model that you made, or that you ported over. And come up here to object mode, come down to weight paint, come to weights, come down to transfer weights, and you'll notice there's like a little heat map down here, right? This isn't even the crux of it. So before we focus on this, come over here, click active later changes to by name. What happens? Well, we're going to come over here, and there's a whole bunch of Vertex scripts you have. Let's click around the model and see what we look at. So if we look around the model here, spine 0, there's like some color down there, right? Spine 1, there's some color there. Spine 3, there's a lot of color around the neck, right? What this does is essentially whatever is red is going to be affected by that bone. Whatever is blue is not affected. So for instance, spine 3 is around your neck, left arm roll, right? This is his left arm. His right arm will be moving. So what weight painting is essentially making blue spots become red, or at least more red. If it's green, it's slightly affected. If it's yellow, it's pretty affected. If it's red, so for instance, if I put the weight up here, all of a sudden his left arm, if he moved this arm would move with that bone. So if he moved his left arm, this whole sleeve would move with his left arm. It would not function right. So we're not going to do that. But that's essentially what we're doing. Now, GTA does a pretty good job. At least if you line up your model correctly, you can have a pretty good weight paint. And you don't have to really add much. If you want to remove weights and make things more blue, you make this 0, and turn the radius, make that 0, and you make things blue. Now, his left clavicle will not be affected as much. I'm going to undo that, though. And if we make it 1, like I said before, if you wanted, for whatever reason, the shoulder to react with the hand bone, if that comes out, that's coming out, it's going to cause a mess. But that's how that works. Now, for shirts, it's not that bad. For trousers, it's not that bad. Gloves, it gets pretty ugly. But that's the explanation of weight painting. What we can do now is transfer weights to each of our models. So once you have that transferred, you can go back to object mode. And now I'm going to do this, and we're going to rinse and repeat this with every part of our custom model. So for instance, our radio here. Where's our radio paired to? I have it tethered to this kit that I already have. So I'm going to click that, right? I'm going to shift click my radio, so it selects the radio as well. Object mode, weight paint, weights, transfer weights. And it transfers everything over. And as you can see, the effect is there, right? And I'm probably going to have to work on that. But it's just a rough thing. So go to object mode, and we can do the same thing. So come down here, and I've got my kit, so I'll just select my kit. There we go, tourniquet selected, object mode, weight paint. Do this for every part of your model, and for what makes sense, right? As you can see, it's affected. However, do not do this for your helmet. You do not need to do this for your helmet or glasses. Again, I'll show you how to deal with that in just a second, but do not do this for any props, so watches, helmets, or glasses, alright? And as I had said earlier, you don't have to worry about doing shoes so much if you only have trousers with shoes. They can be part of it. It's just a matter of do you want to have your shoes customizable. But as you can see, I just did the trousers here and it transferred to the foot just fine. Heads can definitely take some fine tuning, but it's not really going to be as bad as the gloves, and I'll show you that in just a second. So if we transfer the head, transfer the weights, and if we take a look at our eyes, right, the tongue you won't see, but the eye definitely is a little bit weird, right? So first off, let's disable our glasses. So now we have a really good view of this. So this will be a live example of doing weight paints. So the eyes are lined up, but the transfer showed there were maybe elevation changes in the mesh here. So what we're going to do, if we want the right eye to be controlled by his actual eye, we're going to remove bits that are kind of extraneous, just a wee bit. So on the lid itself, we can kind of remove. We don't really want any part of the exterior of the eye to be affected. We want part of the eyelid, which is fine. Maybe a little bit. Essentially, it's little Bob Ross canvas, right? We really want the iris and the pupil and the whole cornea and every part of the eye to be moving with the player's eye. So we want to make this very much controlled. Weight painting can be kind of finicky because you have to paint the vertex that they're coming from, which is why I paint over some places and they just don't appear. But it can be a calming process, but when it comes to hands, it can be really, it's a pain in the arse, I'll be frank with you. Now, even though it's not 100% perfectly aligned with the eye, it's essentially going to treat this that we're painting here as the new eye. So this eye will actually move, even if it is slightly in front of the free mode ped that we just imported. This does not have to be perfect. As long as there's some influence here, we're good. And again, we can remove some of the extraneous mess that we sort of made with weight painting this bit. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Again, I don't imagine you'd be porting over faces for free mode male so much. A lot of people want to use their character. But I like to do this just so I can make screenshots and have more faces behind masks, pictures with masks. So same thing with the other eye. Let's remove this extraneous data down here that it's painted. And we're going to add our own data to the eye itself. Manually do it. You can go a step further and do every single bone. But I've noticed that even getting it close enough, the default weights it will give you, assuming again that you line the face up really well with the base online head, everything else that it gives you is pretty good, except for the lips. The lips are a pretty big problem as well, but as long as you're not talking, you're fine. The lips I really don't have any tips for, sadly. Again, that's just kind of one of the worst parts about porting faces, is that kind of control. But now, as you can see, we've tidied it up a wee bit, and now all the eyes look proper. The eyes actually will stare at you. So, like I said, everything else here, aside from the lips perhaps, are pretty much good to go. I also try to do the lids. I should also mention the lids are kind of something you should worry about. Alright, so that's the face out of the way. The gloves are going to be a problem. So, if we don't do anything just quite yet, you're going to realise that it might look fine on the surface. So let's do the gloves now. So if we do the gloves now, we'll transfer the weights. Weights transferred. And it looks fine on the surface, right? Like, oh, well, look at that. Well, I mean, that's one of the fingers. That looks fine. That's the upper part of the finger, right? It's left and right. Go through the fingers. Yeah, that's the upper part. It looks fine, but you can even see it here, actually. You can see that there is some overlap. And this is the worst part about making gloves. This is why I try to reuse stuff I've already gone through the hassle of doing this for, instead of just fully on custom things. But why does this matter? Well, if you're paying attention, weight paint essentially tells the game that whatever is red is affected by a bone. Whatever is blue is not affected. As you can see, if one finger is affected and another finger has that red paint, this finger is going to move with that finger. It's going to cause a lot of problems. But before I show that, if you want to see how your model will look in-game, there's a pretty easy way to do this. So you're going to select your model, you look in the top right, and you're going to look at what this says here, JShirt. Now, if I come to the vanilla model, you're going to realize the object says JShirt. If I come to here, it says nothing. Well, what we want to do is essentially put this modifier. Well, essentially what's happening here is the J shirt is on the vanilla because that's affected by these bones here. Therefore, if I move the bones, this shirt will move. But our shirt will not. What do we have to do? We need to add a modifier, default, armature, object, and we want to look at this, jshirt.scale. Now that we have that there, both of these will move together in tandem. And we're going to do the same thing for everything else, right? So decal patches, we want the J shirt because that's what it's under. So decal patches, J shirt. This will be J shirt. Do the same thing. Handbergen. Or whatever you have in this case, of course. J shirt. Whatever is here should be anything. Now just ignore PIs and head. I haven't moved those out yet, but those don't belong. But essentially, if I move the mesh, it's going to be the same thing. We'll come down to the lower, down here, and we have lower zeros. We have lower.scale. So come down here, deform, and we want lower, and as you can see, the vanilla also has that same modifier, meaning if I move these bones, these will move with it. And so you're just going to rinse and repeat, so whenever you have things copied under, so like if you have a teeth thing or whatnot, you're just going to keep adding that same modifier. As such, these deformations will allow you to move these freely in Blender. And so now we're going to go down to the hands and do the same thing for the hands. So as we can come up here, we'll see this is affected by the hands, or whatever this says. So it'll probably be upper for you unless you renamed it to hands. Whatever you renamed it will be that. So we'll make it the hands. What we'll do now is we want to actually move the model and see how it tests. So what we're going to do now is disable any vanilla clothing that we have or anything that we've imported. So disable the gloves. Then we're going to disable our shirt or kit, disable our head, our vanilla shirt, our vanilla trousers, and anything else that you've imported with it. Alright. Now, we just have the vanilla model, and this is roughly how it's going to look in game. It looks really good. But for now, if we go to a part of the model, and we want to modify something specific, so let's say we go to the shirt. Well, what we can do, we can click on the jshirt.scale, object mode, pose mode, and select some bones, and boom, we can move it. But you notice there's a problem. And yes, this will appear in game, and this is always important. Anytime you make a model, I would always recommend, when you select this up here, and you go into pose mode, put your hands up like this. This will show you any problem with your model and what will happen in game. This is bound to happen with overlap, so it's kind of expected, but we can easily fix this, though it will take some time. So as you could probably tell, part of it's really the vest, the mole, thinks it wants to be part of the arm, and we don't want it to be the case. So how do we fix this? Well, let's go into object mode, select this, and we want to go into weight paint mode. And now we kind of want to look at our left arm. So let's go to left forearm. Now, it's not the problem here. We're basically looking for this to be red. This is probably red somewhere, right? So, as you can see, this is affected, so we found it. So it's the upper arm. And if we remove it, and sometimes removing it is just fine, but what this also tells you, if it's not gone away after removing what shouldn't be affected, is that something else is controlling it, or this isn't bound to anything. It doesn't look like it's doing a whole lot right now, right? So what we need to do is just review what our skeletons are. So our skeleton 3, our spine 3 is like our centered chest area, and our spine 2 is kind of like the center midriff area. Now if we add weight to this, it will go down. So you can also just paint over whatever's clipping and whatever doesn't belong, and it will come down and react with these bones. So we're going to do the same on this side, and you'll notice we're slowly but surely getting rid of the problem. Now, you have to be very careful with these weights, because if you don't do them properly, you might have a clipping issue in your game. Parts of your mesh might just straight up disappear. These don't have to be exactly perfect, but we want to get them precise. For instance, this thing up here, just say goodbye to it. There it goes, down there. But as you can see, slowly but surely we are lowering these little clipping bits of the mesh. So that way, when people do some crazy animations in the game, there won't be an adverse effect. There won't be an adverse effect on the model itself. As I will say, this is quite a tedious process, because you have to deduce, okay, which bones are causing which problems, which ones are weighted, which ones aren't weighted. And it's just a pretty big pain in the ass to figure all that stuff out. I hate weight painting so much, mate. I do, I hate this. Right, now that our model looks a lot better now, what we can do is go to our skeleton, pose mode, press A, and clear transforms all. That will reset the model back to its default state. Let's do the same thing for the trousers. Those are the main parts of concern. Usually the ones in the middle are just fine. Let's find our trousers. There's our trousers. Click on our skeleton. Pose mode. Select one leg. Spread it out. And you'll notice a common thing that happens with legs is there's this little mesh in between. Oops, don't go too far up, otherwise that happens. You might select a pelvic bone that moves everything. So as you'll see, there's some distortion of the trousers. Again, easy fix. So what we're going to do, object mode, select our object. I'm going to come to weight paint mode, and we're just going to start looking at our vertices and see what's the problem. So this is our left thigh, and that's how it should be influenced. But it seems like there's something being pulled over here. Increase our weight, decrease the radius, and now more of that belongs to our left thigh. Just be careful not to overlap it, otherwise that can happen. So now if you're seeing there's some resistance to this, it's because the other thigh is pulling it over, as you see here. So if we disable the weight, a lot more of that goes to the other thigh. And it's really selective as to how much you want to give over, frankly. It doesn't really matter. This doesn't get seen by the player all that much. But that's the most common problem with legs. Again, it depends on how far you want to go with it. Perfect. There we go. And now the trousers look a little bit more elastic. Obviously, some more work could be done here, right? But this is just kind of how far do you want to go with it. That's essentially what it all comes down to. So now, after fine-tuning a few things, everything looks a lot better. Obviously, there still might be some stretching, but it's just such an abnormal position in the first place, you might not notice it. And once you've got it how you want it, of course, go back to our skeleton, go to pose mode, press A, and come to here, come down here, clear transforms, and you're all sorted to go. Now, this model is mostly good for export. We can actually export this model right now. Just one little problem. Our gloves, we haven't looked at our hands yet. If we go to our hands and find our gloves here, come to our hand skeleton, and then we go to pose mode, and then we select our hands. Yeah, we can move the hand freely, but what if we start moving our fingers? That's where things start becoming a problem. So if we move our fingers, you immediately notice there's some stretching going on, and this happens with just about every single finger, right? Again, that's the problem with doing gloves in this game. This is a very messy process when you mess around with this. But as you see, the hands get very contorted. Sometimes the thumb can be fine on its own, because it's further away from the rest, but usually when you rescale down the model, you do have a problem with your fingers. So it's best just to spread your fingers as wide as you possibly can. That way you can get as much precision as you can when reweighting your gloves. So again, this is the most tedious part of the entire tutorial by far. Now that our hands are all spread out and they all look contorted as can be, we can start editing them directly. So I just start with the left one. This will take a long time. Depending on how you do it and how skinny your model is, this will take some serious time. So we go back to weight paint, and the goal here is to just have this finger, each finger be the focus. We don't want any part from anything else. So get rid of the pinky here. And as you can see, that didn't do much because the pinky's probably weighted to some other finger that shouldn't be. So as you'll see, just kind of spend some time tweaking this whole thing out. Again, very, very tedious process, very tedious. And as you can see now, my hand is a lot more individualized. There's no stretches or anything egregious like that. The hand can be exported, but of course there are two hands that we have to deal with. So with the second one, which looks egregiously worse now, work on that. And then once you have this done, if you have gloves, then we are ready to export and see how they look in-game. Right, now that we have our last glove here, it's time to export. So if you're with me here, we can just disable our pose by going to object mode, selecting our skeleton, pose mode, A, pose, clear transforms, all. There we go. Now it is time to export the model. Now it is finally time to export our model. We are ready to put this in our game and see how it looks. So what I usually do, this depends on how you want to organize things, but what I do is I look around, and if I have multiple things in one, what I'm going to do is I just take whatever's in the top, and delete two of them, and I'll just export that raw. So in order to export a model, and make sure that this is the only thing selected, you're going to come up to here to Export Code Walker, Export, go to your project folder, like I said, it's going to get filled up pretty quickly, and just export it there. And you'll see export in 0.314 seconds, pi seconds, right? Pretty much. And I press Alt-Z to restore what I had in here before. As you see, these are both back. But where did that accessories thing go? So, as you can see, if we look at our timestamps, it's currently 4:37 in the morning down there. But that's when it's 4:36, that's when I exported it. So how do we get this into our game? So, Code Walker XML, we're going to go to Code Walker, and we're just going to go to the directory, it doesn't matter, so you're going to probably be at your base here. I usually go to mods, update x64, DLC packs, and I just find a place to put this down in. So I usually do mpclose as an add-on. And we're going to take that newly formed XML file, that YDD file, we're going to drag it. We're going to click edit mode first, and click yes, and then we're going to take that newly formed XML file, drag it in there. As you'll see, if we double click on it, boom, there is the tourniquet that we baked. There's our overall kit in general. And we're going to drag that back into our main folder, into our project folder. That's going to create a YDD file. We can delete this from the main game. And now we're going to go into Open 4. Select Windows. And now what we can do is we can install this in pretty much any directory we want. Now I use mpclose. I have this favorited. So mpclose, we can drag this into whatever directory we want. Now if you're replacing something, say we'll type ACCS up here, we see all the accessories here. Let's say I want to replace 48. I would rename this to 48. But I want to add on with mpclose, so what I'll do is I'll rename this to accessories different, or accessories 049. And if I drag this in here after clicking edit mode, what's going to happen is, this will now be part of my game. That is the kit that we just made. It's orange, it's the Vertex color. And we want to add a texture to it in-game. So we're just going to take an existing texture, doesn't matter if you're replacing or adding on. Take an existing texture, drag it into your project folder, right-click, rename, and just rename it to that same name before, and then drag it back in. And then, this is kind of weird, Open 4 has this glitch sometimes where you'll click it and it'll be something before, but I usually just click exit, then click it, that way I know I'm not replacing original files. And this is our accessories. Remember how I had you title things accessories after bake. So now we're going to come to replace. And then we're going to go to our bake accessories. And give it a second to load in. And now when we go in game, this should be ready for us in game. Save. I also make backups of these just in case Open 4 corrupts. But for now, our accessories are in the game. Now, you're going to rinse and repeat that process with everything else. So, we want to get the radio in there now, which is going to be our task. So I'm going to delete these two things. I'm going to export this. It's going to be accessories again. And I'm going to undo what I do so I have everything available. So everything's available there. Back out. I'm going to drag this new accessories thing into here. And it's going to be the wide AD. Now, if you have an error that says that you can't find a texture, it's because you did not put, you either didn't put in my normal map, I give you a description, or you did not make a new normal map for it. You have to make sure that whatever's in here, whatever you put here, this normal map, has embedded, and make sure it's a DDS file. It has to be a DDS file. It cannot be a PNG, or whatever Gmod gives you with the VM2 files. So we're going to rename this, just that way we don't get confusion in my base game folder. And we're just going to call this, replace this with task. And now what we're going to do is we're going to drag this back on out into there. Go into open full. We're going to type in task now. And this is the home stretch. This is essentially the gratification for doing this whole thing. And the next slot I have, I believe, is 44 there. So I'm going to call it 44. And as we'll see if we click on the actual thing, there's our transceiver, there's our radio blade antenna. We'll do the same thing, steal a texture from here. I'm going to rename that texture to 044. Drag that back into open full. Click on it. Exit. Again, this can cause a problem if you don't do this, because it can it might make you think you're replacing something new, but it's the same thing. And the radio that we're using is task. If I did a bake task, it'd be here. However, I know that this is a base camo, so I'm going to choose camo 1. And then I'm going to click save. Now here's a nifty thing if you have a model for 2019 model. Most of them have texture variants. So let's say you want to make additional textures. You're going to come over here, you're going to rename it, and change the A to a B, but don't change the number. And you drag it back in. What that's going to do, it's going to duplicate that source texture you had of this vest, whatever you had before. And you're going to replace it with the next texture you have. And as many textures as you have, add B, C, D. B will be your second texture, C, so forth, right? So I know there's a desert camo with this radar, so I'm going to add that to this. It'll make me a desert radio pouch. I know I have a third texture, tertiary texture if you will. Rename that to C. I'm going to drag that on into open full and do the same thing here. So exit out of this and replace it with the texture that we just had. So that'll be my third camo here. Again, this is only if you have multiple textures. You can also make your own textures in Paint or Photoshop, whatever you want to do. But now the radio will have 3 different mag pouch textures. I'm going to do a speed run now since I've showed you how to do this most. So look at our model. We're going to find it in the upper right. The main model here. So it's going to be teeth. So I'm going to delete whatever's in there and export the teeth file. Export CodeWalker XML. Exported. Press Alt-Z twice. Come into CodeWalker, delete what's ever in there, and we'll look for our project folder. Go to teeth, I'm going to drag the teeth into there. Just fine, don't need to rename it or anything. Drag it out. That's our teeth. Come into open full. Find a directory that has teeth in it. Again, I highly recommend MP close. Rename it to the next free one, that's going to be 32 for me. There we are, 32. There we are. Click on it, make sure everything's alright. There's our fanny pack, there's our holster. And then duplicate the texture. So come out there, rename this to 32, put that back in there, click on it once, back out, and then click on it again. I'm going to replace the texture with our teeth. So we're looking for our baked teeth texture. There it is, the chem lights and everything was right there waiting for us. And we're going to save it, and that's ready to go in game. Now I want you to do this for everything, and before you ask, we will be getting to the helmet and the glasses in just a second. But for right now, don't worry about these. We're just going to focus on the main portion of the model. Alright, so I will see you once we're done exporting all this, again, except for the helmet and the glasses. Right, this is my last texture. This is going to be our head. Now, everything's loaded in the game. We're not going to worry about the props just quite yet. Let's go in game and see what we're looking at. So let's go and click play. Right, now that we're in the game, and I'm going to apologise in advance for the frame rate, I should have gone with Shadow Play, but when you have Blender, Photoshop, CodeWalker open full, you're going to lose some frames no matter what rig you pretty much have. So let's take a look at what we have in game. Again, apologies for the frame rate here. I just figured I'd keep this OBS recording just going the whole way through. And let's see what we look at. As we can see, everything here is essentially here. If I go through the components themselves, for instance, if I want to cycle through camos, my trouser camos are all there. If I want to have a desert raider, I can do just that. Right. And then the same thing applies for whatever you're going for. As you can see, everything works just properly. And you can mix and match, if you have a different textures that is, with however you want. But there's one key thing missing, and what is it? What's on my head, or what's not on my head? Props. Also, I'm quite pleased with how the hands came out. These usually require a lot of tender love and care to get right, and it looks like I got lucky the first time. So, if your hands are good, you're good here. If not, just redo them. So, something I really recommend you do is, if you have any issues with any of the rigging before, to fix any part of the model, because now we're going to be doing props. I want you to say props for last because we want the space to be extremely clean for this. So, assuming that you've got everything I want, you've weight painted everything that you want, we're actually going to delete every model down here. Alright? Including the pouches and our head and our other thing. So we have a clean slate and we just have the props that we scaled down. So this is just a prop kind of just in the void. It does have the material as the peds had it. So here's what's going to happen now. So we need to go into our game, and we need to find ourselves a helmet and glasses that we can pair off of. MP Heist 3 and MP Heist 4 have good helmets, I believe. MP Heist 3, you go DLC X64 models, see the images, and then male P right here, and then you can kind of go through and see, like, what helmet do you want to base things off of, right? For me, I use add-on helmets. I just have my own add-on folder. But find a helmet and find glasses you want to use. Once you find them, you're going to right-click, export in XML, and select your folder where your project file is, and same thing for your helmet. For helmet, right-click, export XML, and we're good to go. Now, our sled is clean, everything is looking amazing. All we have to do now is import those two files, import code walker. Don't worry about all the mess, it should be the first two things you see. I'm going to hold down Control and import both of these. Now you'll notice something, and don't worry about the textures. So as you'll see, it's on its side, and our helmet is upright, right? So here's what we're going to do. This isn't a matter of transferring weights, right? We're not dealing with bones. We're dealing with something new. If we come over to where we import in the top right here, and we see our little thing here, come down, we notice there's a little, this isn't a wrench. Most of what we've done on wrenches. This is not a wrench. This is like a little GPS icon, little symbol. If we come over here, there's something called an object constraint, and that's what we're going to apply for our helmets up here on our glasses. And as you'll see, the glasses have sort of the same thing, just a different head. So what we're going to do, we're going to take both of these, both of our models here, I'm going to drag them into this parent. And nothing immediately is going to happen, that's fine. But what we're going to do now is we're going to add object constraints. So as we see, we have a copy transform. So we're going to go to our helmet, object constraint, copy transforms, and we're going to just basically copy the data from this helmet onto the other things. So let's see, we have phead04, which is our parent in our skeleton, and then we have scale root. So we're going to do the same, so phead004, and the bone is going to be scale root, and you'll see immediately there's a change. And we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to see what else we have. So before original, pose local. Do the same thing here. Before original, pose, and local. And now we'll do the same thing with our eyes. So you can actually put these onto the same bone if you really wanted to, but we can separate them just as fine. So scale root PI02. So object constraint, copy transforms, PI02, and scale root. I'm going to do before transform, post space, and local space. Now as you'll see, everything is matching. Now what do we do from here? Well, it's time to essentially match these together. So what I like to do is I take both of these models and I scale them down together. And we're going to try to mirror how that's oriented. There might be an easier way to go about this. I have not figured it out, but there could be a way. And yeah, you could mess around by hand, like doing all this stuff together. It's crazy with watches. However, we can make our lives a little bit easier. So if we want to switch things around, we can do something like this, and then we can come down here and round to the nearest negative full number or whatever. Alright, so negative 80, negative 180 there. And then if we want to do the same thing here, just think of your 90s tables. It's not negative 90, it's close. Negative 90 makes it all line. Now the helmets and glasses are looking really good right now. Now we can get them up to the brim, kind of slide them up. Now, it's going to keep the scaling of whatever you had beforehand, so keep that in mind. So, you do want clipping in this case. You very much want clipping. So this is going to take some tweaks, but you essentially want to match the clipping from each one. And again, depending on what you pulled over to helmet or something else, it's definitely going to vary. It just all depends. A key thing to look for in the glasses, however, is to make sure that the nose rings match up. So you kind of want those to really be accurate, as much as you can at least. I know these glasses in particular are a little bit far forward, so I can pull them back just a wee bit. Almost a wee bit there. Right. And this is also pretty much a trial and error. You might not get this perfect the first time. It's pretty hard to gauge this in-game. So if you want to be a wee bit more organised, we can click on our source glasses, click this down, and drag our new glasses up into the source. Alright, now all we have to do is just delete the root, export our PIs, they're gone, Control Z just in case you want to make further adjustments, and same thing for the helmet. Delete the base helmet, export the prop helmet, and Control Z. Alright, same thing, I'm going to go to our code walker now. Find those new files. So we have PIs, which was exported just now, a 606. Drag that in there, and then drag it back into your project folder. And then same thing for the head, exported basically just now. Drag that into there, and then drag it right back out. Now, if you're using MP Clothing only supports up to 16 drawables, meaning you can't add more, so you have to find actual vanilla game files to replace. We can install them. So, for instance, I'm using this path over here. I'm just going to install it here. So this is an MP security, but if you have MP close, it works just as well. And the name conventions are as filed, phead, and then the number you want to replace. In my case, it's phead 001. Alright. I'm going to drag that right into there. Click on edit mode, and drag that right into there. View it ourselves. And that is the radar helmet that we just ported over. Now again, we're going to deal with the textures, so we can actually just replace it since it's vanilla game files, which is really handy for us. So replace, and then we're going to go for our bake helmet. Whereabouts is it? That is right here, bake helmet. And there's our helmet texture. I'm just going to save that there. Alright, and just to install the eyes, or the glasses rather. So make sure you're not replacing something you've already custom installed. This is all pretty much vanilla up here. In this case, I want to replace eyes 05. I'm going to do the same thing, rename our eyes to whatever we want. I'm going to drag them into the game. And notice the considerable spike in polygons and size there. Then we're going to look for the eyes 05. So eyes diff 05. There we are right there, eyes diff 05. I'm going to place this right here. Double click it again. And bake eyes. There we are, as you can see it's an alpha background. And click on save. And now, time to check it out in-game. Right, now that we're back in-game, let's see if our helmet and glasses worked. And there we are, there is our helmet. Looks really good. And let's find our glasses now. And as you can see, there are our Marine Raider glasses. As we can see here, we're looking quite good, and now the whole kit is complete. Alright, so this is a long one, I'll be frank with you. If it wasn't for me having this week off, there is no chance in hell I would have been able to make this. This usually takes me, with my normal schedule, 2 jobs, I don't care, but this usually takes me about a week to make 1 conversion. So, compiling all that information in 1 video really took the life out of me. I was at this for several hours, so appreciate you for watching this far. But with that being said, mates, I'm going to sign out here, and that said, take care, have a good one.